I thought we had 3 deserving champions and a successful overall championship weekend. So
I clipped that, Travis. Denny just said we had 3 deserving champions
on that day. On that day, I said I didn't think that. I thought I would have been fine with the 22 or 12 winning. I thought they had the fastest cars, speed, and on that day, given the format, they deserved to win it based off of this format.
Podcast title, 3 deserving champs.
I wouldn't go that far.
The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media.
Hey guys, welcome to Action's Detrimental. Post Phoenix Championship weekend. We crowned 3 champions this past weekend. I was not one of them. But it was the wrap-up of the season. Season's over. I'm happy about that. The grind is finally over. This is definitely the busiest year I think I've ever had, certainly with just everything going on and some other things as well. But yeah, just happy that the season's over. How about you, Jared?
I'm happy as well. As our guest here, Steve Letarte, just asked me how many races I did this year. I feel guilty in saying 37 because it's the first year I haven't done 38.
Don't feel guilty because I'm at like
true though.
I'm at 23
Are you
or
sure
24.
you didn't miss any
This year? No,
Yeah.
Or previous years?
this year?
This year I didn't go to New Hampshire.
Okay, I knew you took.
But
one
in
week
previous
off.
years, I have not. Since
That's my argument. Previous years, for 20 years, I didn't miss any, so now I miss 10 or 15 every year.
Well, those of y'all that know that voice, Steve Letarte here from NBC Sports. I mean, you work for everyone.
I
really.
did. It's easier that way. Everybody, just cover them all. Cover all your bases.
I'm trying to, ding down your resume here. It's just like the guy works for all NASCAR media outlets.
Man, listen, I got 2 kids in college. If somebody needs racing to be covered or talked about, I'm the guy.
And we got a game this afternoon.
That's right.
You
That's
need
right.
a little scratch so you can lose something to me.
I know, and you and Chop won the football league. I'm coming in behind. You guys already got a cushion. This is problematic.
Speaking of golf, I had Michael dead to rights on Thursday. We played Silverleaf, smashed him all day. And then you know what happens? Press, last 3 holes. He pars out. I do not.
So you were so we went out and we played with DJ. He made an ace. He made an ace on Wednesday. Here's the most Dale Jarrett thing ever. He goes out throwing. You've played with him, so you've seen this. Throwing clubs, mad, makes an ace on 12, par 3, birdies 17, par 3 to shoot 87. He was so miserable, club in the air, didn't even want to talk about it.
Oh yeah,
That's him.
damn.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall when Michael comes from behind to beat you in golf.
Well, he was telling the world. I don't want to tell Denny this, but
I want
DJ.
that NASCAR money.
Oh, yeah.
I want that NASCAR money. That's what he says.
He stopped DJ on pit road to tell him the story. So I already knew that he flipped you because he was telling everybody.
God dang it! I just dominated him all day. You know what was the most impressive thing? Ahmad Rashad is 74 years old, and he hits the ball 280, 290 yards. Unbelievable! It's the most amazing thing. So he stepped up and he kind of he's walking. Yeah. He's not sprinting to the tee box, right? He's walking.
He's 70 years old playing golf. That's impressive.
Sets the ball down. I'm like, all right, well, I'm because Dwight Freeney's in the group. He hits it 300 something, and I'm like, well, I won't be the shortest guy in this group. And Ahmad smashes it. I guess he bikes. They said 20 miles a day. Does a bunch of meditation and whatnot. Holy cow. It was amazing to see. I mean, at 74, I'm not going to be able to play golf.
But that guy could probably lift a truck for the first half of his life.
I guess.
Is he one of the most underrated athletes? People forget.
After seeing what I saw, I'll say yes.
That's a good point, though. But he's been in the media world for so long, people have forgot that what he did in his like athlete career.
Yeah. And then we also had Ben Herman, the owner of the golf club, and I mean I think he shot 67 or 66. He's my member guest at the Grove in December.
So the stories of Ben Herman that I've heard is that John Rahm was asked. Have you heard this story?
No.
John Rahm was asked by the Golf Channel or somebody. No, it started with Ben Herman. It was some pro-am or something. He owes Silverleaf. Hey, this is the guy. He goes, who do you normally play with? Play with John Rahm. And they say, oh, how many strokes does he give you? And he said, none. We play heads up from the back. 5 out of 10 times I can beat him. And this was John Rahm was number 1 in the world at the time, and they all was like, no chance, no chance. So they took the mic, walked down range. Same like cut of video. So Ben just said this, and he goes, I think it's more like 6 out of 10. So he's apparently a stick because John Rahm gave him his due.
Huge. I mean, it was...
Wait a sec. So he's your partner and y'all don't win? What's the problem?
No, he will be my partner.
You didn't get him
Grove
last year.
Member
Okay.
in December. So, whew, I'm glad he's on my side.
I was going to say, no pressure.
Mean, he just murders the ball. It's just crazy. And he's accurate, too. So, well, let's get into the weekend. Let's start with the trucks. Ty Majeski winning the title there.
Is anybody surprised?
I'm not. I guess I was a little bit. I don't know. I got so caught up in the last half of the season being Corey Heim and Christian Eckes, just kind of dominating, win the most races, things like that you forget, well, it's a mile or shorter track. Here comes Ty Majeski. That's his bread and butter, right? So
this conversation is going to continue because that's really the conversation, right? You question if it ran Martinsville a 1 mile and a 2 mile if it's Ty Majeski who wins on the average. But at a 1 mile track, there was no doubt in my mind he was the favorite. Yeah,
I think that the schedule, certainly is a big factor in who we crown champions for sure. But I just, they brought a really fast truck. I mean, nobody was even. I didn't see anyone remotely close. The 11 was the closest, and I was watching lap times. And if he could stay within 2/10, that was a good lap for him.
He needed to get control. He kind of lost control, and then it was game over. I think he might have kind of what we saw on Sunday, right? Blaney and Ligon, whoever had control. I think Heim had a chance to hold him off, but I don't think he had any chance to pass him.
Yeah, I thought that race kind of had the biggest spread from fastest to slowest of the championship 4. Grant Enfinger obviously was struggling most of the race. I just thought that, man, anything can happen. Maybe they're one adjustment away. No, and then, and Corey really got the breaks he needed to get back into the picture, right? Because he had that, I guess the restart violation, right? And then he had a really good restart caution, really good restart caution. So everything kind of played out perfectly for him to get back into the game. But the fastest driver and truck won on that day, for sure.
I agree. Majeski was the favorite at that track. He got it done. I'm good with him. I thought I agree. The other two won more races, but Ty's a good driver, good spokesman.
Yep. I agree. Especially, there was a lot to made about him missing his media day to go vote in Wisconsin. So, it was
12 grand's a lot of money for a truck driver.
I no question about it. No question about it.
What do you think the fine would be for you if you skipped it? Like a Cup driver skipped their media day?
I'm not sure. It's probably in the rule book somewhere.
It's got to be $100,000.
Yeah.
75 or 100.
What do you think Eckes is thinking about? Like, I know he said he doesn't regret it, but you had Majeski
because of Martinsville.
out of it.
Yeah, he knocked Taylor Gray out of the way.
Oh yeah,
would put Majeski in. I mean, you can't think about it in that moment, but I don't know. I've never been in a situation in the playoffs where I haven't thought about if this guy, who's it take, if this guy goes in, who goes out. Like I'm always thinking about, well, who's my competition going to be, right? Even when a competitor wins a super speedway race in the regular season or something, someone that are way back in points is like, well, my path to the championship's not really going to run through them. So it's like, it's not terrible. So I just think that certainly, Christian seemed very adamant that, listen, this win meant more than, thinking about whether I need to put this guy in or that guy out. So,
yeah, I mean, I almost applaud the fact that he did it. Not that I love the move, but to what Denny just said, that in the end, we talk about everything, but I think we overlook how much a trophy means. Guys like you and Lars, some of you do it so often that when you see younger drivers or even much older, now look at Kyle Busch, right, who didn't win for the first time in 19, it had been 19 straight years. He didn't win in his 20th year. What he would give for a trophy. I think sometimes, especially us in the media, I maybe sometimes gloss over what a win looks like because there's such a bigger picture at times.
Justin Allgaier wins the NASCAR Xfinity Championship.
So happy for Justin. And he had to earn it. Wow.
Talk about lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. let me take that back. It wasn't only luck, but he needed some luck,
Right.
And he got it.
That's right. Yeah, he did he have a penalty, right?
Restart,
Another restart.
and then serving his restart violation, he
Speeding.
sped. I was mid sentence.
that's a
I'm like,
double
look,
whammy.
he's
You
not going to lose
cannot
a
do
lap.
that.
He's going to be fine. And right in the middle, I'm like, oh, cancel all that. He just sped. He's in big trouble now.
Cannot do that. That's just the number
I saw him
one.
last night. He said he sped in the box where he was pitting. So they set their lights for the corner.
Yep.
And as the radius tightens up in the corner, they would go up on lights.
Okay.
And
So
his
it's probably
guy,
when he's
Pullman, had
turned in.
him like, because he knows he's going to turn left and break up whatever section it was. But because he didn't pit under the penalty, he ran the same lights and there was no decel into his box. So that's where he got busted.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So whatever, I'm going to make this up. Say it was 5 reds
I
and
get
jumped
it.
to 7 reds because he's getting into the box.
That's
Well,
right.
he jumped to 7 reds, but there was no pitting. So he just drove through the last box too fast.
Oh, that's a detail, but it's like when you're in that moment.
That's right.
I mean,
That's
you
right.
always. Chris Gapar always says, you go to the racetrack, you lose 20 numbers of IQ.
Yeah,
because
then the
it's
green
just
flag, 20
everything
other points
going
are gone.
right? And so
I put that on, and I hate it because I love Jim and I love his spotter, but like he needs some help in that situation.
Oh,
Someone needs to be
absolutely.
like, hey, run 1 light less. We're going to be fine. We're not going to lose a lap.
Right.
Someone needs to because he's flipping out on the radio about the restart violation. Someone has to like de-escalate the situation very quickly.
I mean, you'd be hard pressed on a cup team for someone to recognize.
Oh, yeah, no,
that in that short
That
amount
could
of
have
time.
easily happened.
Yeah. Well, he came back. He caught a caution that happened because he was 1 lap down. Right. Well, how did he get the lucky dog?
So here's what
He
happened.
was the tail end of 1 down.
So what happened is he pitted, then got his penalty, pitted again, and that put him out there like 1 lap down. But then it was running, and the leader was lapping cars. So
Right.
he never got to the lucky dog position. So then we get into a green flag cycle. Oh, yeah, this is how lucky he gets. In a green flag cycle, he pits, and as he's leaving pit road, or like a lap after he leaves pit road, the caution comes out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Which then puts him back on the lead lap. Like it was a whole thing.
Wow. We were traveling back to the house to watch the end of this. I was intently watching as much as I could, and I couldn't figure out in that moment. I was like, wait a minute, how did he get back on the lead lap now? So because I knew he was kind of borderline 2 laps down before that whole cycle started. So wow, that was such a break, but he took advantage of it. I mean, I don't think we would argue that he didn't have the best car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Primary.
I mean,
we haven't even touched the fact that he wrecked his primary in lap 4.
Yeah. And I talked about this in the media center that, this is kind of the tough part about a one race, crowning a champion, because look how just unlucky Justin Allgaier got, right? Someone goes in there and they spin or they blow up, and he gets caught in a wreck, and now he's his best car is sitting in the tailgate, so he's probably going to have a tough go at it. But they put some great speed into that backup car, and he you could tell right from the very first run of the day, he drove right to the top 10 in 26 laps. He was going to be someone to reckon with.
Well, and the best move of the day was the move he didn't make, which is going down the backstretch with Herbst left rear or left front smoking for the win, and he drove in there. Was like, oh no, you just go ahead. I want no part of whatever you're thinking.
I saw
Last win
that.
for SHR, like good move,
right.
letting him go.
Yeah, and they were in his ear telling him,
Yep.
You're good here. You're good.
We
Just
don't need that guy.
No, you don't need it. You know that Riley really wants this one. And Riley had the best car of the day. I mean, he dominated that
so
race.
good.
He pulled away every time he got up front. He had a lot of speed, which is interesting that the 00 didn't have the speed that the 98 did. 98 passed the 00 must have been 4 or 5 times during the day. So that was awesome for Riley. Great for Justin Allgaier, someone that has been doing this now. I think this was his 14th year or something like that.
Yeah,
14, right?
7
His
in
seventh
this
try.
7th try.
Yeah.
What do you make of that the second to last restart when he was the 3rd row back and he gets to the lead, right, and then their caution comes out?
Yeah, there was a key moment, and one of that being when I was very surprised to see the 21 car take 2 tires. He
only had 2 left.
Oh, really?
Well, hold on, back up. The 21 only had scuffs to begin with, and they only had 2. Okay, he had something happen in the middle. I'm after the weekend, my mind's a mess, but he only had rights left. So he had issues earlier with something.
Wow.
So this is the problem I have with tire
because I was
count.
thinking, well, he's historic. He's had the best pit crew
I know.
all year long.
I know. See, that's the problem I have with tire count. I appreciate what it does to the racing, but it affects, like for this race, man, I'd love to see him just get one more. I mean, they already have 4, maybe 5 for the championship guys.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want you run over a stinking rivet, and that's going to be what ends your chance. It's already so rough.
That's true, and that's what can happen, right?
I'll give the other teams a little credit because after Justin had that wreck in practice, NASCAR went to the other teams and they agreed to give everybody an extra set. If I was the other teams, I'm saying no. The 7 teams stuck with what they got.
During practice, they gave it to them so they could get their backup cars out there and get them rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
That's all Wayne Alton. I mean, he's really got the pulse of the garage. Whatever garage he's in, he's got the pulse.
Well, he's going to be missed because that was his last race. So 38 years, he's retiring. I agree with Denny. I think Wayne asked that question where you don't really answer. Hey, I'm going to do this. Is that okay? The answer should be yes.
That's right. Yeah. And so I couldn't figure out for the life of me, all right, the 20 was in, but which car was out of the championship? I think we figured that
Double
out.
zero.
Double zero, right?
Yep.
So I thought it was just such a compelling race. And even if it didn't have those cautions at the end, it was so compelling because when Justin Allgaier got around Cole Custer, he couldn't pull away. And everyone that I was watching in the house with says, "Oh, it's over now. It's 3 to go or 4 to go or something like that." And the 7 had just taken the lead. I said, "No. The advantage in the Xfinity cars is for the guy behind because you can constantly keep that front car loose to where he never gets away from you. Where the Cup, it's very opposite. The leader's got just the massive, massive advantage. But you could see that the 00 kept driving in there and getting the 7 loose so he couldn't get away." And so it was going to be very compelling to see how that last couple laps played out, but it still ended up just, top-notch finish there at the end.
And Justin Allgaier owes Connor Zilic a bit of a thank you.
Yeah, Connor was he was dicing it up. I would say no more or less than what, say, Kyle Larson was on Sunday, right? And so, I mean, listen, we can talk about it, but there was probably a handful of guys with chips on their shoulders going into Sunday saying, I should be here, not these guys. And so
it looked different.
Yeah,
from the window, it looked different.
They were not going to just pull over and let those guys go.
This Allgaier championship, though, is just a testament to what you always talk about, Denny. It's just to put yourself in position year after year after year after year, and eventually the fortune will just all fall your way, and you'll win.
But the thing is, I thought he was the most deserving, champion. Not necessarily just kind of. This year, yes, you would definitely say him and Cole were the cream of the crop. You had Austin Hill. He won some races in there, yes. The 16 got their first win to get them into the Final Four. But, the 00, the 7, I would have had no issue. Either one of those guys win the championship. I just thought generally that weekend, the 7 showed me everything that a champion would on a given weekend, and that is that he was fast, he overcame adversity, and he won the race in an exciting fashion at the end. So
I think it is less of his standout versus Ty Majeski and Truex, but look where they ran also. I mean, he blew a tire with 3 to go with like a 5-second lead there in the spring.
I know.
And every time when I sat down with the 4 guys, 4 Xfinity drivers last week, that's what they all basically said. Like they were not conceding. But they're like, look, the 7's going to be the fastest. Like man to man, he is absolutely going to be the fastest. We're going to have to find a way to beat him. Mm-hmm. Now, it was way more up and down to get there, but in the end, it was the fastest.
Yeah, and in the end, the 0021 and those guys, they're thinking when the 7's having his adversity, not only during practice, but in the middle of the race, he's got black flagged again. It's like, okay, now which one of us are going to...
Right. That's what I mean. Is that you think
take over here.
That one of those things is going to be the nail in the coffin that's just going to make it too tough to overcome.
Yeah. And, you can't say enough about the actual drive that Justin did. I watched him. I saw how he set people up. I mean, he wanted it. He wanted it bad, and it's good to see he got rewarded with the championship.
Sunday, Joey Logano.
Man, they did everything right. All I can say is they qualified the best. They had the best short run speed. He had the best restart of any of the guys on that final restart, and he won a championship. I think that there was no doubt going into the weekend. I thought that the 12 would be the fastest. And in practice, you would say 12 was the fastest. 22 was right there next to him. But I thought that, generally speaking, the 22 just executed the day slightly better and had a tremendous short run car and restart. And then the 12 had a tremendous long run car and just flat out ran out of laps.
Did you know that Ryan Blaney has not finished outside the top 5 at?
Yes.
I mean,
I'm well aware. At Phoenix?
yeah.
Yeah. It's this schedule works out well. I mean, what's so interesting is we lapped Joey Logano in the spring. I remember that. And then the 12, he was good, but not great in the spring. Not like they've been over the last 3 years in a row at the championship race. So it's just very interesting to me.
So I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious. Like, I'm not smart enough to know where it comes from. But Logano and Paul Wolf's numbers are like postseason, all postseason. I mean, Logano has like 35 wins. I want to say 15 are in the playoffs. He won 4 races this year. 3 were in the playoffs. Like I really don't believe they sit down and they say, okay, we're going to be great here.
No.
I mean, everybody wants to be. But there's something about Paul Wolf and Joey, and I'm not going to separate them because they've done this together. However they operate, however they prepare, either like I said, consciously or just subconsciously, they are, without a doubt, they are Jimmy Johnson-esque when it comes to playoff numbers, career percentage of wins in the playoffs, everything he has been great at. We talk a lot about this format. He has won 3 in this format. Like, he's won 3 in the championship 4 elimination. Like, that's
well,
impressive.
Let's go back to his first. His first, it was the big 3 and then Joey.
Yeah, big 3 and me. That was the quote.
Right? So they just said, okay, at Homestead, everybody's so worried about the long run. Screw it. We're going to build the fastest car we can for 10 laps. And then let's just see how it all works out.
Yep.
And they had a short run at the end. They won the race. It was the same. They've written the book to how to get through these playoffs and win it. Obviously, they've got the riddle to it, but it looks the same. And it was the same that year, is that he was not stellar in the regular season by any means, but then found a way, and he really performed well in the playoffs. And then they built a ridiculously fast short run car at Homestead, wins the championship. 3 years ago, he went to Phoenix. I don't know his path to there, but the regular season was not good. Like, he was non-existent through the regular season. I mean, there'd go races you didn't even know he's in it.
Yep.
And then they find the path to Phoenix, and they get there and they show up, and they're great. They were great. Ryan Blaney would argue did the same thing last year. I thought we ran off all of his finishes that were 12 in a row of like 11th or worse, or 9 in a row. It was a lot of really poor finishes, and not just 35th. Something happened in those races. They were just not good, not fast. And then won the championship. And then this year, the 22 does the same thing. So it's like, okay, I understand the formula, but I don't know how to do that, nor would I want to. I want to get as many bonus points as I can through the regular season, because we've seen it, and you need every single point.
Well, let's not forget Logano was out. Like, I don't want to go back and relive it, but Logano did not make it out of the round of 8. He was eliminated. To your point about bonus points, back to exactly what you're saying in the blueprint. Now, look, he deserved to be. We don't have to relive the Charlotte thing. He deserved to be in. I'm not trying to peel that Band-Aid off.
I thought
the lack of points eliminated him. The one round he didn't win, he didn't advance on points.
And in that same race, I came on this podcast and I gave due credit to the 22 team for stepping up during the Roval. It's not often you run top 5 in all the stages and in the race, and he did it. He, again, with the same formula, he was really good in the short run, not so good in the long run. But they found a way to be great at a track that he's okay. You never put him in the top, echelon of the road course guys, especially at Charlotte. But he did it, and he stepped up. Now, it wasn't good enough on that day, right? But then
ended up being good enough. That's right.
And it was. So it was just so interesting to me how they do it.
But
I just don't understand
they answer
how.
a distant question the most. So the question that I think they answer is, how do we win? And a lot of people lose. I know it sounds crazy, and people that doesn't make any sense. But look, I've done this for 20 years. You're continuing to do this. I think you guys answer that question a little bit as well, right? The Fives answer is, how do we be the fastest? And they just wear you out. I mean, that's kind of what they do. That's their signature. William Byron, I think, is a little bit like Logano, right? How does the 24 win on this day? And when I look at the 22's races, and I think Joey's racing IQ is as high as anyone's, how do we win on this day? Because their wins are fuel mileage, raw speed, short runs. Like, I think Paul, they look at the puzzle and they say, okay, well, if we think we're going to gain enough speed to just outrun the 5 all day, then we're already behind. So where is he weak? Where can we beat him? And they just try to find and just kind of hope a little bit that the race falls their way.
Right. I mean, that's Las Vegas, right? They were not going to win that race if they stayed on the strategy that everyone else was.
They were 12th.
No chance.
And they already got into that round because of Bowman getting disqualified. So it's like, well, why not? If this works, then we look like heroes.
So for the listener, let's do the quick review. Round of 16, they win race 1 at Atlanta.
Yep.
So then they cruise on into the round of 12. The round of 12 is where they didn't. I said the round of 8. I misspoke. The round of 12 they didn't get out of. That was the Roval with a win. They end up getting out on points because of the 48, right? Then they go to the round of 8, win the first race. Then they go to the championship race and win. So, I mean, other than a win in the round of 12, they almost swept the board.
And he won in Vegas in 22 also.
That's
the
correct.
Fall?
Yes, he won.
No, in 22,
he won the
first round to get to the championship. And so then they just start working on Phoenix, and they have 2-week advantage.
So I guess, Steve, my question is, and you're the crew chief, you're the one that puts the car together. It's how do you find, and especially next gen era, how do you find that much speed overnight?
Well, so I don't think the 22 was the best car. The 12 was the best. I think the 22 and the 24 had almost the same speed.
I would argue that. The 22, I'm telling you, the green flag run, this was probably 150 to go. I came out right in front of him. He pitted 1 lap later. He passed me and drove all the way to the lead. This was the end of stage 2.
Yep.
I was running 5th or 6th. He passed me, passed the next guy. I mean, just motored up there and nearly won stage 2. This is when Bell and Blaney were battling. And so at that point, I'm like, holy shit, I'm not even remotely in that league. Or, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how can I go a couple hundreds faster every lap. And I mean, he just goes by me and leaves me in the dust.
So something flipped because practice at 12 was the best. Start of the race at 12 was the best of the championship 4. I'm talking. Yep. And then I remember saying it on air, and I think it was the run you were talking about. I'm going to guess it was stage 2, maybe early stage 3. The 22 passed the 12 on the racetrack. That's the first time the 12 had been passed all day by anyone.
Yes.
The first pass. And we talked about control.
Probably in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because at Martinsville, you ain't passing the 12 either.
So think about this. This is what watching these races, and this is why I make such a big deal about that pass. That was it. People don't want to believe it. That was the pass for the championship. That was the pass that never came back. That was the position Ryan never got. So when you watch your driver who wrecks at like lap 200 and you want to know why he's battling the guy, because that was the championship pass. He never flipped positions the rest of the day. And then Joey did what Joey did. Like he on the last restart, he got out in clean air. He had to battle a couple guys to get there, and then he used it. And then it just took Blaney too much to get through. I thought, I'll admit, purely off data, this thing was over in my mind with 15 to go, and it was over for the 12 to win it. Like, there was no chance. If you go back and look at lap times, something happened, and I don't know what it is, and I want to ask Logano himself, because he was running like flats, and Blaney's running 70s all day, 80s. And all of a sudden, the 22 runs like a 75, a 77, and an 81. And it was like 9 or 10 to go. Those 3 laps were the championship. If those 3 laps don't happen, Blaney gets there earlier.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I think as a driver, I think about this, and I'm like, I've been in that scenario.
He's searching,
I've
right?
had the lead
Yeah.
with 20 to go, and the guy's 2 seconds back, and I know what lap time gets me this this win without taking unnecessary risk and having a blow up lap where I get loose in, I give up a second one. I can't do that. I can bleed a tenth of.
And they told him on the radio, you can give up a tenth a lap. Like they gave him an instruction with like 20 to go.
So more than likely, I think that he probably was running 95%. And then when he saw the 12 cutting into that, he probably says, okay, I've got to take whatever risk it is. Yeah, I got to drive in deeper, whatever it might be. And he had that extra speed to go. I think he just was trying to get to the finish at 20 to go with a 2-second lead.
I was impressed. I had no problem with the people racing them as hard as they did for position. And I won't lie, I had anxiety. I started to see the back of the field and some drivers and teams that we don't see all the time. And I was like, please. So I can see at Phoenix, I can look through the glass. There's an empty booth and then NASCAR. And, I kind of always look down there. Well, with 20 to go, you look down. And I'm going to give NASCAR credit this. They're all all the very important people at NASCAR are standing and they're pointing. And like in my mind, I'm thinking they're like, make sure the spotter on this car knows you have every right to be out here all year long, but we have 20 to go for a championship. So, and they actually did. They all pulled way over. They let it kind of happen.
So I don't know whether it was publicly stated or not, but NASCAR said that evidently they say this pretty often. At the end of the Martinsville race, they came on the radio and told the spotters, if it is not your day, get out of the way and let the cars through.
I have heard it before. I didn't know if that was consistent or not.
So
but
when we get into the whole race manipulation thing, we've covered it last week, but I just found it very interesting. I said, wait a minute, NASCAR said what? They said, if it's not your day, get out of the way, let the cars through. And it was like, I wonder who are they speaking to?
So in my mind, I don't know who they're speaking to, but I have no problem with that message if they are speaking to people that are not on the lead lap. Because if you're on the lead lap, unlike a golf tournament, you can't make up 20 strokes in the last hole. In racing, you can. Caution come out, you could stay out, anything can happen. If your lap's down.
So if that same message got relayed at Phoenix, it, more than likely.
I hope so.
Yeah. You got, I think it was it the 15 or 51, the 7, and Chase Briscoe got out of there. Corey. He was the first guy.
Poor Corey. He was not having a good day in the 51. Pitted, had fresh tires. And something like hit him, like he drove by somebody, the 12, and drove by the next guy, and he passed Logano, and it must have hit him, and he, I don't know if somebody told him it was late, but it was so obvious. He was like, oh, my bad. And he pulled over on the straightaway, and he kind of got behind the 22, and he rode there for a while, and when the 12 was close enough, he got out of the way for the 12 as well.
That's the most awkward time as a driver I'm thinking about is that I think the 47 did it with us towards the end of the race, but he was ultimate gentleman. He knew we were kind of racing, so he came out on pit road on fresh tires, like 20, 30 lap tires, and it's like he gets right in the middle of our battle, and he just wants to just go ahead and go, but he can't because his car's been off all day, right? So he's faster for those first 5-10 laps, and then the pace of his car catches up to him, and then next thing you know, he's right in the middle of our battle. And so it's such a tough...
Stay behind it to begin with,
It's just a tough spot to be in when you're having a tough, bad day, is your crew chief puts you out there on fresh tires, and it's like, well, I can't use them because I don't want to get in the middle of all these races going on.
There was a couple times in my career that I wouldn't lay it out, but I'd key the mic and be like, yeah, I see it. No, just do what you think. That's kind of like, hey, don't do it for us. Like, if you want to lift, you have to look all these other drivers in the face. Just get out of the way.
Yeah. So it was a great job by those guys that we just said to get out of the way and let those two battle it out. And I thought the 12 would have a little bit more left, but like you said, you're looking at lap times. You saw the 22 just stepped up there.
There's 3 laps. And look, I thought the 24 finished where they should have.
He's 45 the one that actually got the best break. He was on the front row of the restart that Logano.
I thought the bingo card landed right in there.
Right on him.
So everybody pits. About 10 or 12 laps later, the 24 pits. He runs one corner and the caution comes out. Yeah. His 2 teammates are on the racetrack, so then they pit. Long story short, you have half-lap tires, 2 cars with fresh tires that are also your teammates, and then everyone else. I thought this was the 24's day. But corner 1, lap 1, Chase didn't have anything for him. They blew Chase off in the first corner. Yeah. And then Larson, I'll give him credit. He drove everybody as hard as he could. Hell, he was side by side with the 24 at one point. I don't think he cared. They just weren't good enough. They just weren't fast enough. I
agree with you. I think I tried to explain it after the race. And they said, what more do you need? What did you think about the 45? And I was like, listen, I had the same setup the 45 had on all weekend. We acted kind of as a quasi teammate to him to try to give him any information that we could. And I said, I felt like I was riding a horse and he just had a sprained ankle. Like it was pretty good. It really was, but it just didn't have the speed that the fastest cars had. And I thought that the only cars we couldn't run with was the 22 and the 12. Everyone else, I think we drove up to fifth at that one point. The 24s come back to me. I was about to pass him for the end of the stage. And the 20, he was probably the best Toyota. But there was just at no point, especially when that 22 went by me, that I think I had the capability to tell my team to get me that on that day. So I'm just trying to optimize my day at that point. But it was like, we got work to do. There's something that, they just have better than the rest of us. And when you heard Jeff Gordon, I believe he made comments after the race. He's like, we've been for a year, we've been working on this racetrack. We haven't won the championship in 3 years here, and it's a little demoralizing because Hendrick Motorsports spent so much time on it. I know Joe Gibbs Racing spends time on Phoenix, but there's nobody, as long as they hold the championship race at Phoenix, it's hard for me to say that, the favorite's not going to come out of Penske as long as they get there.
I do need a little something different at Phoenix, though. Tire, something. It was from the booth. It was like, I'll be the first guy. So I hate when I see a good race and everybody says it was a bad race. And the drivers, Denny and I will disagree on those at times because from where he sits, sometimes it isn't a good race. But I'm from the fan standpoint. I'm like, I disagree. That was entertaining. This one was a little sleepy, right? Like a second of fall off wasn't really enough to.
Not enough. Yeah.
But everyone's saying that this is the best you're going to get at Phoenix.
I think that's easy to say. It can always be better. And they said the same thing about Martinsville, and that was the best Martinsville we've had in 5 years.
That's my point, is that they dramatically changed the Martinsville tire, and we would not disagree that was a different race than what we've seen.
On the old tire, Ryan Blaney doesn't win.
Oh, no question.
On the old, well, first of all, nobody pits that many times, so you can't untangle it.
Right.
But Chase Elliott or whoever the heck that was that had control of the race, he just drives up. Yeah, like it's over. Here's my thing. I don't think that you're going to change Phoenix and it's going to all of a sudden race like Miami because it's not. It's Phoenix. But that doesn't mean it can't. This is like the crew chief driver argument all the time, right? Like you can always be faster. Trust me. Well, the race can always be better. It doesn't have to even be a bad race. Like I wouldn't label this as a bad race. I just wouldn't leave saying, okay, that's good enough. I think it needs to be worked on.
I think that
the market has everything else is my point. Great weather, big field. I flew out there commercial. You land, championship 4 drivers.
I agree.
Like Phoenix, Miami, they're big markets. They're champion Super Bowls, the whole 9 yards. The track, I was all about it. Scottsdale one time. You knew the championship 4 were in town. That's, I think, all we can ask for. The place sold out months in advance.
The place gets rewarded because the fans turn out there every time. They always do.
Can you feel it? Like, because I'm up there in the booth and it's obvious to me. For you guys down there on the grid, like when you walk out there, it looks great.
Yes. It's a great venue. I hate it that the racing is not better because it's a great racetrack. The layout's very unique. It gives us some options on restarts. We're racing multiple lanes. But we have a car problem, right? And we're trying to fix it through some other things. And, we can talk about what the fix is, but I believe in my heart of hearts, we got to get the back of the cars up so the rear car can manipulate the spoiler of the front car like the Xfinity cars. But right now we plant the back and then there's no effect that the rear car has on the front car. We've got to make it to where the back car can manipulate the front car. That's how passes get made. 90% of Xfinity passes get by someone just jamming their nose right behind somebody, gets them loose, boom, goes on by them. I agree with you. The tire could be better. We know we're going to have Phoenix in the championship race next year. NASCAR stated that, the playoffs are here to stay. It's interesting, though, that they left the window open but we could tweak.
Yeah.
And, what does that mean, right? Because, I don't know what's going on. in their minds. Certainly, we said on this podcast, what do we say if Joey Logano won the championship?
There would be outrage.
And there has been. And for right or wrong. Now, I will say this. You got to give Joey Logano due because he, in my mind, he executed the best that day, and I would have been fine with a 22 or 12 champion on that day.
So here's my problem with
On that
outrage.
day.
People don't want to look at the numbers. He won the second most races. They just want him to beat Kyle Larson because he would have beat Kyle Larson if he was out there too. So he would have still won 4, and Larson still would have won 6, and the 22 still would have been the champion, I believe.
But people just want them to do something in the regular season. Like he's like
Yeah, so Steve, that's my question, is that what it seems as though this format is doing is delegitimize. Help me out here.
That's that's more
Delegitimatizing the regular season
there's too many cars that get in.
because,
So
I agree with
I have a so I
So here's my question.
This is like the college football argument.
We knew we were going to talk about.
Oh yes,
formats
cannonball
and things
right
like
in.
that,
I'm ready.
Is that okay? I left race day thinking the 12 or 22 wins this race off of what I've seen. That's the most deserving, right? I think that they, had the 24 won because he got that lucky break and then just fending them off. I don't know. Maybe it leaves a little bit more bitter taste in my mouth. But I thought the best two cars battled it out there at the end in the one race, right? Let's just forget the rest of the season. But we got to talk about the regulars, the rest of the season, because it's not as though, in my mind, we want to throw mud on the 22 and their team and their path, right? They were the Cinderella story, I guess you could say, because they were always at the bottom every round that reset. You don't want to stop Cinderella stories from happening, but how can you reward teams like the 5 that just were the best, or the 40? Yeah.
Well, I think
they deserve. How can you say that they don't deserve a shot to win a championship?
Well, I think you have to decide what you want for your identity. If you want what golf has, then the regular season champion gets a huge advantage. If you want what Major League Baseball or football has, then you don't. Because I'm a Patriots fan. We went 19-1. I saw what 19-1 felt like. Loss. Worst
but
team.
The Giants
never
still
lost.
had a winning record.
But Joe Logano still won 4 races.
And I love that you bring up
I would
other
agree with you
sports.
if he didn't win, but he won 4.
I hear you. I think I'm speaking for all the bots out there.
No, oh man, I hear you. That was a good line.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying.
I think they have issues with how he,
That's right.
We got some fuel mileage, 2 fuel mileages, and a super speedway. I just think that's what they're saying. And then I know because it's on my feed, right?
Yep.
Is it because I opened up one of the complaints and read the comments, and then my feed just kept feeding me more of it? Maybe. But I think we got to be careful ignoring the people saying that they have issues with this, and they have year after year. So
the hypothetical
it's hard for me to say, why was Kevin Harvick after 10 wins didn't have a chance to race for a championship for Phoenix? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, you're talking to the guy that led. So you're pulling a Band-Aid off that he doesn't even know he is. So in 2007, Gordon and I had like a 400-point lead when the playoffs started that we lost. Gone. Evaporated. Then we race and we win race 4 and 5. And then this guy, you may have heard of him, Jimmy Johnson, he won race 6, 7, 8, and 9. Right? So I empathize with this conversation, right? I hear what you're saying. I don't know the answer because as long as you have playoff, I don't think – so here's my opinion. I think it's not a regular season issue. I question if, say it was a 3-race championship.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Would you, because I have no problem with the Logano championship, and I'm not saying you do, but you think the fans would have less to stand on if he was the best in a 3-race finish?
I think they would.
And I actually like the last 3 races.
I think they would be more okay with it.
I think you could run Martinsville, Phoenix, Miami, and have a great combination of racetracks.
Right, but that's the key,
Awesome.
right? Because
so here's mine. I'm going to give you the Steve Letarte playoffs. You ready?
All right, let's see it.
You win a race, you're in the playoffs. I don't care about points. I'm not even going to count them. I'll count them for the guys that don't make the playoffs. You win and you're in. We may have 6, we may have 16. I'm not even going to set a number. The playoffs are only winners. If you don't win, I don't care how many points you score, you go home. Like, thank you. Winning is what matters. That's what people cheer on. Victory lane should be the best. So for 26 weeks, you have to win a race.
Okay.
Then we run, I could argue the format, either all of those guys for 10 weeks or all of those guys in some sort of elimination with the last round being 3 races. There's still seeding off race wins and stage wins because once Denny wins the first race of the year, I want him thinking, I need to keep winning. So I would still seed everybody in a bracket, not bracket elimination, but like there's still a first to however many winners we have.
And so do we still get bonus points for winning stages?
Yeah, I think
races?
the bonus point is like the seed. Like, so let's just, for simple math, say
So
we have
that's how
12
you'll start
winners.
that
Correct.
last 10 weeks.
When we reset, when we leave and enter the playoffs, we say, hey, Kyle Larson had 4 race wins, they're worth X, and 5 stage wins, they're worth X. So that puts him seed 1 with 2,050 points.
Okay, so everyone's staying, keeping up at home. You're saying nothing really changes. It's only race winners. It could be 12. It could be 13. Whatever it is. But the
race.
bonus points for winning the race is the same. Stages the same.
You got to win.
Yes. Okay.
You got to win because first of all, the Joey Logano argument. I don't want a guy that points his way into the playoffs and then go deep. You didn't win. You're 26 weeks. You didn't win. You have to win. The sport is about winning, right? When you go in the Hall of Fame, they go, man, you had this many top 5s. Like nobody cares. Like, moving along. So, and then we seed you by race wins and stage wins. I don't know exactly how the math works, but that way your regular season matters. Now I could argue you line those guys up for 10 weeks. I could argue that.
That's the old chase.
That's the old chase. I think we've already done that. Or we could line that up with some sort of elimination, 3-3-3 or 4-3-3. And
why not just run them for 7 weeks?
Yeah,
and
I'd
then
be
the
fine.
last 3, the final, the top 4 in points go race for a championship.
That's what I do think too. I think I don't know if you need elimination or if people just mathematically will be eliminated, like do it to themselves. So I could go either way. I do love the elimination races. I'm fortunate enough on NBC. I think we have the best schedule because I get all the elimination races. So I hate to lose that part of this format because that part is great. And look, the guys at the top of the grid aren't going to be eliminated. But so that's what I don't have figured out.
7 weeks they could, which is why maybe I argue to you then double what the race wins mean. So instead of 5 bonus points for winning a race, I mean, think about that. That's only 5 spots in a stage. Maybe that should be 10. Maybe a stage win should be 2. So really, the people that get the bonus points, like the Seabells and the Larsons and Reddick, those 3 had the most. I think Byron, I don't know if he had as many, but those guys deserve to have a head start, as you say.
Totally.
Right? They deserve to have the head start maybe in that 7 races. I'm buying into your playoffs here.
But not every round.
No,
because now their regular season. So I make the argument the regular season is too valuable because you get your head start 3 times.
Correct. So what I'm saying is if you doubled it, so instead of Larson having
you're saying have 1 round of
53
7.
bonus points to start, now he's got 7 races, but he's got 100. He's 100 over this guy. So that means he really has to the bed over the next 7 weeks to not make it to the Final 4. But he could wreck out of a couple and find himself in a tough spot. And it still allows the bottom seeds to get hot for that 7 races to get themselves in that Final 4 to run for that 3-race championship.
I then would take the 3-race championship. Maybe not every year because I'm not sure a city can lean in just 1 year like they do the Super Bowl. I'm not going to put us at NFL level. But I would like to see the last one of the 3 rotate. Same 3 tracks, but I think the order matters. So I'd like to do Phoenix for, say, 2 or 3 years. I'd have to ask, NASCAR would have to say, hey, we need 3 years to kind of like ticket sale, stuff that's not important to us. They could decide, TV could decide, and then maybe the next year. But I think, though, Martinsville, Miami, and Phoenix, to my mind, are 3 tracks that cover the gamut of what you need.
You got Vegas in there, too. It's good time of the year for Vegas.
Yeah, so I think you could even go Charlotte at the Oval. I think Charlotte Oval might be one of the best races we run.
No question.
So we could talk about the tracks, but that's what I think. I think the regular season should be about winners. I would even argue that, I'm going to make this up, say you get like 3 points for a race win and 1 point for a stage win, but none of that carries over. And if you're the 1 seed, you already know how many points you're going to get. Like the 1 seed is already determined to have 100 point. If I win 1 more stage than you, that makes me the 1 seed. Then I have my total point, and everybody gets seeded by, say, 10 points of position, or to your point, give an advantage to everybody, and then run 7 weeks. Take your 4 and then run 3 weeks.
So I'm going to go
I
back.
think 10 is too much. I do like elimination.
Okay, so to me, then what?
I'm just
It's
saying
not a bad
10
idea.
straight.
So maybe you go a certain amount of weeks, eliminate the bottom 4. Or, just keep going that way.
But you don't reset it. You just eliminate 4 and keep going.
That's correct. You keep going.
No reset.
That's right.
Just keep going.
Because people on social media will say is that, but he stepped up and he won in the biggest moment. I agree, but they reset the score. He was in the bottom. This could be Tyler Reddick. This could be anywhere, right? Just because you hit a half-court Hail Mary, does that, you got dominated for 30 weeks. Like, does them resetting the score with 2 minutes to go, and just because you hit a Hail Mary three-pointer or a Hail Mary touchdown pass, does that to me, it delegitimizes the fact that you earned your way into the championship. To me, it just does. So, in NASCAR, you got to understand they keep resetting the score on us, and that's what you said is don't reset it. Just let it keep rolling. Right? You're going to get a bigger sample size, and every time you get a bigger sample size, you're always going to come out with a better result. That's why before we take any medicine, it has to go through rigorous testing. Right? And so I'm with that. I definitely think double all the points. Start up, you can argue the 16 or winning you're in. You say you want to see winners, so
all the winners.
All the winners.
You know why? Because that way, all of our partners. Remember, next year we're going to have Fox, Amazon, we have all these different partners that we're going to try to be consistent with our messaging. Right now, it's winning you're in unless you got in. Here's the point standings, and we're all going to show the point standings the same way.
Yeah.
You know how easy it'd be like, who's in the playoffs? These 5, because they've won. When somebody wins at race 13, you just move their name to the list, right? Like, it becomes more consistent for the fan.
What if you got rid of the win and you advance in the playoffs?
Well, it
does.
That's what
it gets
this
rid
does.
of it.
It removes the win and you're in. It does. You still have to over that 7 race. You could win the very first race of the playoffs. Yeah. That just helps your That helps your cause of making it into the Final Four.
It's like the mix, old school and new school.
You still gotta
perform.
You're not gonna
consistently
win a fuel mileage race or a super speedway race and all of a sudden your whole season's made, right? I think there's just too many variables in NASCAR that just open up the sample size slightly.
I mean, at the moment, these playoffs in my mind are just 4 races. It's a round of 8 and there's a champion. Like, you can have an okay season. You, for example, right? With the penalty, you effectively won 1 race and had a decent season and made it to the round of 8. And then if you're good in the round of 8, you win a race and you're good at Phoenix, then you have a shot to win the championship. It all comes down to whether or not the champion is decided by 1 race or a group of races, right? Because if you're Penske and you know you're head and shoulders above everyone else at Phoenix, you just have to figure out, okay, how do we put a car in that race?
But I will say this, though. I like these things being discussed separately. They get mixed up too much. We haven't had a champion that I don't think is the deserving champion. There's not been one guy that stood on that stage that I didn't think deserved to win a race this year or to win the championship. But I think the format does allow it, right? It allows it a little bit too much. So the conversation should be just like, how do you make racing better at Phoenix? It can always get better. The format went from this to that. Like, we can make a change not because it's broken, just because we think it can be better. I think that's where people get so just split on these arguments, right? It's like, we aren't, or at least I'm not, saying what we have is wrong. I'm just saying, I think now that we've done it and we've learned, it's like testing. Denny, go drive this. I don't think that setup was wrong. He tells me what it does. Well, then I make a change. I mean, there's an action and a reaction. We raced in this format now. I don't think this is a reaction because Joey Logano won the championship. I think it's because, hey, what have we seen? Have we liked what we've seen? But, I think it takes the heat off everything. It takes the heat off officiating, takes the heat off. It just takes the temperature down on everything that's happening on the racetrack, because right now, in one race or an elimination 3 race, like, I think the bigger sample set you get, I'm a big numbers guy, and I think on a sample set, the averages take care of themselves, right? The outliers, both good and bad. That's why I like get rid of the win and you're in the round of 7, in case you have a guy that gets 4. I mean, I don't have a problem with Joey Logano's fuel win, but if the front 5 cars wrecked and the guy who was running 8th all day long wins a race because of something like that, that would bother me a little bit more.
That can happen in NASCAR, which is why the sample size should be bigger.
You and I think the same thing.
Right? I mean, it's just
sample
NASCAR
size
is a game of chance.
Well, and it's not even just
sometimes.
For me to celebrate your human performance, I have to understand all the mechanicals that go into that. And you are racing against guys, back to the manipulation that we're not going to dig into. You have to race against everyone. So for that reason, it's even more important to have the sample size bigger, because whether they mean to or not, forget manipulation for a minute. Say you're lapping a car and he cuts a tire and wrecks you. I mean, should that be, we want to build stars. I think the stars would grow bigger and bigger and bigger when there's less chance that it doesn't go the wrong way for them.
Right. I think when they came up with this, right, I remember being in, and I think Joey Logano mentioned that I was in the room when
this is your playoffs.
He said it was my idea. I don't know about that. I was part of the discussions on how we were going to do the stages, how we were going to reward points for stages, and I remember being part of the format stuff. But I don't think what was planned for by NASCAR in this is that 3 bottom guys win in the round of 8. I don't think that they budget that in their thoughts of like, hey, we could end up eliminating a guy that won 20 races because these bottom 3, because they think, well, what's the chances that these bottom 3 that finish 25th, 35th, and then wins in the round of 8, like, oh, they just took a spot from our most dominant teams throughout the regular year. I just don't think that probably was a thought, because I know that when NASCAR started tweaking their playoffs, they always looked at how would the champion have changed under this format versus when we did it previously with the chase, with the 10 races. And 85% of the times in the simulation models, and when they ran it, the champion was the same. But it just created this more excitement that you're talking about on the weekly basis, or these 3, especially elimination races. And you can't deny that those have been exciting. My only question is, does it, though, put a bug in your just a little bit of legitimacy of like, it's exciting because you made it exciting. You reset the score. You lined us up on a green, white, checker, double wide. Like, of course it's going to be exciting because you form the rules to be that way. So people just don't get excited on those moments anymore.
Well, now the counter to the argument is like the Martinsville TV ratings. I happened to see them on social media, right? They were up, I don't know, 5, 8, 10%, whatever it was. I'm not smart enough to know why. I'm not going to pretend I know why. But that's the true counter, right? The true counter to this is we are having this whole conversation from a competitor's point of view and as a sports fan's point of view. But while I'm a NASCAR fan, I am a NASCAR fan who's in the sport. Like, what do the 3 million that watch on TV want? I think they would like what we're talking about.
Well,
but
how many are avid and how many do you think are core then?
Yeah, I think one great thing about NASCAR is we have a few million people that watch all the time, every time, wherever it goes.
Because the ones that I see are core. These are, This is just not like it used to be, right?
Yeah.
And I think we got to definitely run that fine line because the casual fans that turn on, yes, they'll see an exciting race, but they're just skimming by.
How many casual fans does NASCAR have, though? I would say the percentage is. If you're watching NASCAR, you're hardcore.
I personally believe that if 3 million tune in, I think 2.2 are core.
So I think we have a hardcore group that chases us everywhere we go. So I will say that let's talk about it the other way. We keep talking about legitimate. Let's just look at it the other way for the fan. What if on the next to last restart, the 5 hits the 9 and takes out the 12, 22, and 45? I'm just for conversation. So now we have been fortunate that the championship race, the competitor, and I'm going to give the credit to the garage has made those races great. They have stepped up and put a show on. But gosh darn it, what happens if it goes the other way? It could happen, right? Like we could have that race where nobody thought we were going to be blowing tires at Bristol in the spring. What happens when we start running a softer tire at Phoenix and we go out there and Holy, look at that gives me a headache to think.
Yeah. You're right.
Like to my point about taking the pressure off, right? If it was over 3 weeks, everything just becomes a little bit.
I just think that all the rest of them, if you change nothing, all the rest of them have round of 8. Why don't we have a round of 4? I don't understand. Why is it one race, right? I just believe you would get more bite of the apple if you had a championship round. I think, well.
So hold on. As an owner, let's talk about the business side. Owner now, not driver. Is the championship race more valuable for your partners? Would just a longer final round, right? That say the championship is going to be decided. You have Tyler, you have great partners on that car. Do you think the business side of 2311 would say, that would help us because that would give us 4 bites at the championship round apple with our partners?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Because those are other things that have to be considered.
Sell, absolutely, because you know that the focus is going to be on you for 3 straight races.
As a TV guy, I agree. I'm going to no offense to Denny Hamlin.
Yeah,
I didn't really know how well he ran at Phoenix because I was so focused on those other 4, and that's unfortunate. But people are
that's part of it.
Yeah, right.
So yes, I think that knowing that you're going to have cameras on you for 3 straight weeks absolutely would be important to us.
Well, then NASCAR should also get behind that, right? Because for that same theory, then you should be able to take the track and you should be able to take what you just did at Phoenix and replicate it then at Miami or Las Vegas for 3 weekends in a row.
Mm-hmm. It's look, there's just a lot of partners because TV. This isn't just a NASCAR thing. I mean, look at sports and how they're consumed. I work for the network, right? I know what television wants, right? They want something they can promote, that it's a must-see. If you make it multiple rounds, you're asking the fan now to kind of give your attention for multiple races versus just one race. I mean, there are counters to the conversation. Right. Yeah. That has to happen. That's why I don't have to make these decisions. It's great being in my seat.
And I think, too, when you go from 1 race to 3, I think you challenge the driver more, right? I mean, let's just pretend Phoenix is Penske's playground, which it appears it is right now. At least if you, all right, well, then go prove it to me at Vegas, too. Yeah. Go prove it to me at Martinsville, too, which you would argue that's their playground,
so too. I look at
but it's still, you make the champion prove it at all types.
Logano didn't do anything after Vegas. He packed it in for 2 weeks. You wouldn't be able to do that.
Correct. Yeah, as they did because, so I look at like golf. I think we need to learn a lot from golf.
Yeah.
And as a fan, I don't like limited fields, and I don't like less than 72 holes. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't like limited fields. I want to see them all there, and I don't like shorter events. But
Tour Championship, don't they?
No, that's different. I mean, but like as a fan turning in, right? Like I like to see if a round of golf was 9 holes, my handicap would be a lot lower. I can mentally put it together for 9 holes.
I like golf too because it definitely rewards regular season. Like these guys play, I don't know how many tournaments.
Right. But I think the head start's too big at the Tour Championship. Like I think for one event, that's too big. That's kind of what we have.
But they put the best golfer P1. I don't think it really matters.
No, it doesn't. But
Scheffler. I mean, Scheffler's within 5 strokes on day 3. It's like, well, watch out, folks. Here he comes.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
but,
you're right.
But I do think that maybe you give these guys a bigger head start from their regular season accomplishments to give them more of a buffer to get through.
Now, I do like a reset.
Continuous rounds or that this 7 races were.
So I will say, if we go 7-3, I do like it's heads up at 3. No more heads up when you get to 3.
Yeah.
No. The 4 that make it.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, when the 4 that make it, we start at 0.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, okay. That's a problem I have with the Tour Championship.
That's
fine.
Like
I think they should be reset heading into the FedEx Cup, like the last 3, whatever it is, and then you just keep playing.
Because obviously, if you made it into the Final 4, it ain't because you lucked up and won a race. You had to get in the playoffs by winning.
And then you had a great 7 weeks.
And then you got to sustain that greatness through the 7 weeks to get to that point.
And I think the pressure off of what tracks go in those 7 weeks, like you want to run Talladega, you want to run a couple road courses. It's 7 weeks. Like I don't want to hear about there's a track in there you don't like.
Right.
Or it's 1/7 of the sample size.
And stop. Yeah. And the resetting, you don't need to reset it. Even if they throw an elimination in there after race 3 or whatever it might be, you don't need to reset. Just let these guys run when they get hot. Let them stay hot.
Yep.
Yeah.
This all sounds great, but are you not?
It always does.
It does, but no matter
you'll be able to
decision,
shoot holes through it. There's no question. We're doing
someone
this off
should.
the cuff
someone
in an
should.
hour podcast. So
I'm just wondering, do you keep changing this? Does it delegitimize the sport.
Boy,
as a
that
whole.
word got the hardest word to say we've said.
I'm
the
not
most.
repeating it. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: national championship in football, has it been changed? Like, do we value it differently? Because it's changed over the years. There's been AP poll, then there's BCS, then there's 4-team, now there's 12-team. We don't look at it differently because it's changed. Because generally we get usually one of the top teams are in playing.
I know,
for it.
but you also don't have the ability of a 1-win Temple team to get into the playoffs.
No, but I think he's answering his question, which is change alone a problem? So my answer to that is no. You will always have people that don't like change. That's okay. But those same people thought a street course was crazy, and I went there, and it's an event, man. It's packed. It's like I'm going to applaud Steve and Ben and the people at NASCAR and I'm going to put Marcus on this list because he's another innovator. Just like we can't always just pick at the flop. You can't just pick at the flops and say, well, that was a bad idea. You can't. Monday morning, I would have won a lot of races, right? It is really risky for change, but I don't think we are such a juggernaut that you're like, man, we're afraid to change anything. How do restaurants go out of business? They don't change. 1 week you can't get a reservation, and 6 months later you're like, man, I've had that same meal this many times. Like the human interest, I would argue that if you polled the amount of people on how it really works, I have no idea how the FedEx Cup points in golf work. None. When I know when the guy makes a putt, they go, oh, he trends up in the top 75. I'm like, okay. So if they need to change the algorithm or the math to do what they think's better for the sport, as a fan, I'm like, I'm going to complain about it because that's my job as a sports fan, complain about stuff. But I'm not concerned about change. I really am not. Not in that situation.
I'm not either.
I think a perfect NASCAR is this. You run the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600, Southern 500. There's probably a few more that I'm missing. Every year, there's 1 or 2 marquee things on the schedule that are new that we can celebrate. It was Chicago. Next year, we're going down to Mexico City. Like, those need to be celebrated. And I'm good with it. And if you want to change the playoffs, I'm okay with it.
Yep.
That's a good argument. I got no.
Well, I guess
No
here's my
issues
counter. I believe that Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson, with 7 championships each, are the Mount Rushmore. Put them up there. They've all done it. I don't care the formats. I don't care that Richard did it in his. Like, in their world, they were the best in their time to win 7 of them, right? Like, you can't unpeel the onion and say, like, Joey Logano didn't need to run well in the next 2 races, but you can't go back and say, see, he wouldn't have been the championship. I'm like, oh, so you don't think Paul Wolf would have done something different if he had to go run great at Martinsville?
Yeah, the only argument, though, I have to that is that people say, well, they played the format. And I says, listen, if they could have won the first 26 races, they would have.
I don't mean
But
the
they
regular
didn't.
season. I mean more specifically in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? Because to Travis's point, I'm not a diehard college football fan, at all. I could care less if they keep changing the playoffs in college football. So if 2.2 of those 3 million fans watching a race are diehards that want to see a change in the playoff structure, then go for it, right? I don't think you're going to lose the casual fans because I don't think they are watching because, oh my gosh, this playoff format is just so good in NASCAR. I'm tuning in every week.
But
I don't think that's the
what
case.
did they just do in college football? Didn't they increase the sample size? Now, if you're going to be the champion, you got to run a tougher gauntlet than you did before.
But no one's gonna. But what I'm saying though is no one's gonna say, well, this isn't a legitimate winner this year or in the AP poll. Like,
So your argument is that change is fine.
I'm all for change.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Same. Well, we had Martin Truex.
Hold on. Should we get to the best part about the race though?
What part?
The pace car spinning out.
Oh,
Hitting the-
yeah.
That's embarrassing.
I
They
hate
put
to-
that guy on TV. I don't know who it is. We're not going to mention any names, but that's embarrassing. That's tough.
I think he just forgot it was one. I think he zoned out and was thinking that it's just another pace lap. But then, and then he realized really quickly, oh, we're on 1 to go.
We've all made bad split-second decisions. My man just needs to flip the lights back on. Run another one.
Absolutely.
Run another one.
Absolutely.
I feel awful for him, but man, that can't happen. Like I'm so, like, I said it on air. I'm like, this is like a ref spilling his cup of water under playing the NBA. Oh man, my bad. You okay? I felt. Can we at least say they cleaned it up relatively quick?
Yeah.
They were
I
prepared
thought
for that.
they did a good job.
That was bad. Went to the backup pace car, man. He hit hard.
I tell you what, that Camry's tough though. You see, he hit those barrels and it barely knocked. It creased the bumper slightly. That thing was.
Saying Camry has to have good crash test ratings.
It appears so.
Burton and we take the pace car out every weekend. For no other reason, we just feel it's an obligation. Just remind ourselves of the facility, make a few laps. We were proud of ourselves. We didn't hit anything. So we were like, somebody wrecked the pace car and it wasn't us.
I loved how the driver got out of the backup car and then he got in the backup car. Like I thought they would have been like, no, you're done. You go out there and drive the pace car.
Best thing that happened to that guy all weekend is that Joey Logano won the championship because no one's talking.
We
about
had his information and we chose that was too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, look, like if you're a star, if you're a sports guy, but
some people just need to remain behind the curtain.
We left him behind the curtain. We knew who it was. We showed him from a distance, but we weren't going to call him out by name.
Well, good news is he's going to be more on it, I think, going forward on when to pull in. Back where I was starting there with Truex final race, just what can I say about Truex? Just a constant professional as a teammate. Certainly somebody that I admire off the racetrack as well. His how independent he is. He's independent off the racetrack, and it's just a great professional on the racetrack. And so we'll definitely miss Martin and everything he brings to Joe Gibbs Racing, and wish him the best.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, how would you react if you were Martin and you had a standing ovation of the entire room around you in the driver's meeting? And for Martin, that looked very
I was getting emotional for
uncomfortable.
him. Maybe it's just my old age, but like they play the video and I start, all right, hold it back. I'm all right. I'm okay. It's not even about me, but I'm just, you know how big that moment is for others. I did the same thing during the Harvick video. Like I started holding it back a little bit, trying to hold it back because it's like, it's a big moment for them and their family. But Martin's casual. He's just, while everyone's standing up, he's just sitting in a seat.
and he starts clapping with everybody, with his water bottle.
And so, I don't know. That is Martin, right? And he's always been that way.
Do you find yourself these past 2 years, you've seen Harvick and now Martin do you catch yourself thinking about your retirement?
Only on Mondays when I feel like I have a bad race, my body hurts, and it's like, oh, man. But every Sunday, I get in that car and I'm like, I got a chance to win. And that's just something that's going to be hard for me to give up. And surely one day there'll be a light switch that flips on that, I'm no longer as quick as I was and things like that. But I still feel, like I can win it. And I feel like I can win every week. And that's what drives me. And those that know me or play golf with me or play basketball with me or whatever knows that I love the competition. And it's how I get my fill. And y'all asked me on the plane, like, would ownership fill that? If I stopped racing, would ownership fill my competitive bucket? And I say partially. Like, it's still different when you go out and you do it yourself. Now, I would take a lot of pride in, being the owner of 2311, knowing that, all right, I had my hands in all parts of building this team from scratch, from the competition, challenging the crew chiefs and the engineers on their thinking, the drivers on their techniques. Like, I take a ton of pride in that. But it's still different than, doing it yourself. And so I think I probably would struggle with that part of it. And I've always heard people that have said, when those that choose to retire, they know. I'm not in the know.
Well, so I did it, right? So I went from the pit box to the TV booth when I was 35. So I had tons of, Dale and I just won 4 races. Like, we had all kinds of stuff. And I will say, in hindsight, I'm thankful I did it because I do have 2 kids in college and I got to see them for 10 years, right? My schedule is obviously a lot different than a driver, although their schedules are pretty crazy, really, in today's NASCAR. But you're correct on it's partial.
Yeah.
Because there are days, look, when we climb out into Michigan and I'm like, I don't feel like I don't miss this one. But man, when we see Martinsville or Darlington, or I loved Pocono, like there are certain tracks where on Sundays I can be cranky because I want to compete. But I also know you just don't show up on Sunday, right? The Monday through Sunday. I will say this, though. No one in the world wants Denny Hamlin to keep driving more than like Wheels and those guys at 23XI because he's going to be all in there. Like that first year he's not driving, they're going to be like, dude, don't you have something to do? Like, go, let us be for a little bit. He's going to be all in their business.
The control freak in me, you're absolutely right. I will be all
You'll get there, you're like, access car won't. And they're like,
what are you working on?
Yeah, right.
Well, why aren't you thinking about this?
Yeah.
Or have you thought about that?
Oh, yeah, you'll be all in their business.
This was the first weekend you kind of experienced that, right? Because you've competed for championships before, but this was the first actual weekend where you were not competing for a championship as a driver, but we're doing it as an owner.
Yeah.
Like you were standing around Tyler's car pre-race before he got there. Like you were going through
I just wanted to give him one last message, and I'll keep that private, what I said to him, but I wanted to have one last word with him before, because I'd been in that scenario, and so and failed at it. So I just wanted to give him advice from the playbook that I've learned from over the years. And so certainly, it's those moments are special. They're going to continue to be special, and I want to continue to win races. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me, is to try to run my win total up as high as I possibly can.
What was the moment like after the race where he obviously wasn't able to win? Did you talk to him, or what was that like?
I didn't at the time. I just said because he was quite a few cars up. So I just, gave my congrats, Martin and whatnot. And again, I have to do my media obligations. He's got to do his. So you got to stay at your car for 15 minutes after a race. So you can't really leave there. But I've since talked to him. And so it's, I'm sure it's crushing for him, but man, he's just in his second year with this team. This is their third year that the 45 team has been on the racetrack, fourth year for 23XI. He's going to have many more opportunities. And it's like, this is the experience you need for when your time comes back around.
So it's funny because I don't have a dog in the fight, but that's why I was so thankful for the championship the way it ended. Just from simply, I appreciate all the drivers. They're spectacular to me. I text them. They text me back so I can do my job. Joey is the most senior. Right? He's not old, but he's the elder of those four. So he got his third. You never know when you're going to have another chance, right? He's now at 3. There's only 10 drivers out of 3,000. 3,000 have taken a green flag. 10 guys have won more than 2, right? So we're talking unbelievable numbers, right?
Upper echelon.
Yeah, right. And then Blaney was close. I empathize to be that close. He's going to win another. But the 2 that lost, they're going to be back a bunch of times. So they're going to have their moments.
Point. Very good point.
When talking to these guys, Steve, before the race, did you get a sense that, experience in this was playing a role in how they were going to perform?
No, I will tell you this. We talked to both Xfinity and Cup, and it is so evidently clear the difference. The Saturday drivers were great and cordial, but you could see maybe some nerves and not what to expect. These 4 delivered everything I looked for. And they all answered the question I liked the best. I said, which one of the other 3 do you prefer to race around? And all 4 instantly said none of them. And I was like, really? And you could see in their, this was earlier in the week, but you could see in their mind they had shifted forward. Like they were in a spot that few people in life can get to. And they were there. They didn't care that they were teammates or friends or this. They realized what was on the line. They were all so dialed in that from the interviews, I couldn't tell you. I had to start looking who I thought was going to be the fastest. I ended up pre-race picking Logano. I think it was literally a coin flip across the board. I took him for what I call the intangibles and maybe a little bit of my emotion that I wanted to see a guy win 3. But no, they were all so amazing when we sat down with them.
Yep. Yeah, it was a great weekend overall. I thought we had 3 deserving champions and a successful overall championship weekend. So
clip that, Travis. Denny just said we had 3 deserving champions
on that day. On that day, I said I didn't think that. I thought I would have been fine with the 22 or 12 winning. I thought they had the fastest cars, speed, and on that day, given the format, they deserved to win it based off of this format.
Podcast title: 3 deserving champs.
I wouldn't go that far. So we have some exciting news at Dirty Mo Media.
We do. A new show is starting, Herm and Schrader podcast.
Yeah. So you got Kenny Wallace here, Ken Schrader. Ken Schrader might be the king of the one-liners. Man, the guy he is always on top of it with just a punchline that will make your stomach hurt. He's just so funny, and Schrader's seen it all. Kenny Wallace, obviously, you see his social media presence. Man, I couldn't figure out though this week after Phoenix whether NASCAR hired him or Dirty Mo, because he was very pro sticking up for anything NASCAR this weekend. So I think he's just priming himself to be part of the Dirty Mo family where, he might get called into the trailer once or twice.
Giving himself a few that-a-boys before it goes bad. It's going to be like those two have forgot more stories than you and I will ever know.
Yes.
So it's going to be fascinating. A totally different perspective.
And I love Kenny because he'll say, listen, and we say it here on this show quite a bit, this is not a fact-based show. This is an opinion-based show. But Kenny will say, listen, I'm just talking man. I don't know. It might be true, might not be true, but I'm just talking so.
I don't know how old Kenny Wallace is, but the energy that he has, I would kill to have half of that at his age.
Oh, no question about it. I'm 43 years old, and after watching Ahmad Rashad this past week hit a golf ball, Kenny Wallace at his age running dirt cars and working there's no way. I just don't think I'm going to make it that far. So tune into that. It starts tomorrow, airs tomorrow,
November 13th.
Awesome. Well, tune into that. You'll find it on all the Dirty Mo Media platforms.
I got a review here from JBG Mama. As I said last time, yours is a compelling journey, and true fans have and will continue to enjoy the trip. All in. Jared, keep asking the tough questions. Keep up the good work, boys.
Well, I appreciate that review. It's been a great year. Did we officially do 40 episodes? Probably. I don't know.
If you're asking me to keep track,
felt like a lot. It feels like a lot on Mondays where Sunday didn't go great. But there's many, many times that I woke up and was like, let's get down there. It was an exciting weekend all around. There got plenty to talk about. NASCAR definitely gave us plenty of content throughout the playoffs with rule changes and stuff. So I appreciate everyone who's been tuning in. We'll have a great off season. Maybe we'll check in with you and catch up on some off season news here soon. But until then, we'll see you later.
Well, before we finish, I need more details on you. When you were a teenager, you got hit by a car and then they sued you. Mm-hmm. How does one get hit by a car and then also get sued? Did you jump on the hood?
You can sue anyone you want.
You didn't jump on the hood or anything, or
no?
Would you break like a traffic law on a bike or like?
No, I was exiting my driveway when I was, and I say 11. I think it was between 9 and 11, somewhere in that range. But yeah, I was just riding my bike, exited my driveway, pulled onto the street, rode for maybe 5 seconds, bam, got hit. And then she, once she hit me, then she went into the far ditch on the other side, and then said she had mental distress from that point on.
How much damage did you have to, like, physical?
So they sued for like $50,000, I think, but they didn't win.
I feel like I need a lawsuit for something.
I said her brother owned a law firm in Virginia. So.
I'm married to a lawyer. I mean, I could start just distress playing
Pour
golf.
some hot coffee on yourself.
Were you in pain? Like what?
Not really, no, because I just kind of, I got clipped pretty good, and it sent me into the wobbles. Then I fell. So yeah, I mean, I got skinned up, but I mean, the
10-year-old version's fine. Now at our age, if it would happen, we would
I'd still be laying there.
I'd be like the guy on Office Space. Remember the guy?
Oh yeah, yep.
He was in the full body cast. That'd be me.
I'm falling over and I can't get up.
Yeah,
that'd be you.
All right. Anyway. Well, appreciate y'all turning in all year. Appreciate the chat, Steve. Thank you for coming.
Great times. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's go play some golf.